Welcome to the Reinvention Room. If cravings have become harder for you to control in midlife as you're getting older, today I'm going to show you how to take control of them and make losing fat much easier. Cravings are not a willpower problem. And I think many of us think I just don't have willpower when you give in to cravings. But it's really something either physical or emotional. And this is what we're going to be discussing, the types of cravings and also how you can overcome this. So I will give you really clear step-by-step strategy towards the end of this video, how to overcome your cravings. So what if your cravings aren't actually the problem? What if their information, the way your body is communicating with you? I definitely used to think that when I gave into my cravings, which has happened very often, by the way, and mostly will be in the afternoon, in the evening, I would be really good all day, let's say, and in the evening, I'll be like, oh my God, I just need something little. And then that something little would end up with kind of raiding cupboard, right? And having all sorts of things. So it wouldn't be just a little snack, it would be a little bit of a binge. And it would definitely ruin all my efforts, whether that would be for that day or for the past couple of days, and it would make me feel really, really bad. So that's my experience, and I'll share later on as well what I have done to overcome these cravings, and that's exactly the strategies I will be discussing here as well today. So if we haven't properly met yet, my name is Misha and I am a weight loss and body image coach for women in midlife. And I help them to lose stubborn midlife weight gain, regain energy, and regain confidence, not just from outside, but also inner confidence. Because if we don't have inner confidence, we can lose the weight and we might still not feel confident enough. So that's why I'm really big on reinvention rather than just losing the pounds, because that's how we became that different version of ourselves. And we feel like ourselves again. We feel confident in our body. We create the most confident version of ourselves. This is a training inside of our Reinvention Room. So this is a free community of nearly 600 women who are ready for reinvention, to lose those stubborn midlife pounds, to feel energetic again and confident again. And I exclusively do here a live trainings where I offer only inside of the group exclusive resources, exclusive coaching and offers. So if this sounds something like you would like to join, the link is in the description of this video. If you're watching this on YouTube or you are listening this on the podcast, you can click on the link and join us completely for free here. So what's important to understand about cravings? Cravings are not just random urges, right? That you simply need to resist, that you simply need to find some kind of willpower to overcome. They are signals from your body, your mind, or actually combination of both. So instead of asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why do I have no willpower? Why do I give in to those cravings? You need to ask yourself, what is this craving actually trying to tell me? So we simply don't need to fight cravings. We need to decode them. We need to, first of all, understand what these cravings are telling us. And that is just so powerful to actually just understand that this is information that your body is sending you. These are signals. If you are getting really strong cravings, these are signals for you to understand, to basically decode. And that is what we're going to be discussing. So, first of all, there are two main types of cravings. First one is, of course, the physical cravings, and these are driven by what is happening in our body. In a second, I'm going to go much deeper in terms of the physical cravings. And then we, of course, have emotional cravings, right? So these are driven by what we are trying to feel, or actually what we're trying to avoid feeling. So before reacting to any kind of craving, it's really useful to ask yourself, is my body asking for fuel, or is my mind asking for comfort? Okay. So let's talk about the physical cravings first of all. So, what is your body actually asking for? And physical cravings happen when your blood sugar spikes and crashes. So, this is when your blood sugar goes on a roller coaster, right? So, it goes really up after you're eating and then it crashes down. And when it crashes down, that is when you get those really strong cravings. That is exactly when your body is asking you for more fuel, mostly for more sugar. And this happens quite often when your meals are low in protein. So that's kind of one of the very, very big reasons. Low in fiber, low in healthy fats. Okay. So it's basically when you don't have that balanced meal or that balanced diet when you're going for too long without food. So I'm not talking about fasting, that's a little bit different, right? But when you don't have, you're not fueling your body regularly, properly, okay? Then you get these kind of cravings, uncontrollable hunger when you just end up eating anything and everything inside. Another big reason is poor sleep, because that is a really big one. Poor sleep is regulating our hormones, our ghrelin and leptin hormones. So the ghrelin is basically our hunger hormone, and leptin hormone is telling us when we had enough. So these are super important. And of course, sleep is regulating much more. This is just one of the very important things that is regulating and important to mention. And of course, big one, right? So as we approaching perimenopause, as we are getting older, getting that age of 35, that's when a lot of hormonal changes are happening for us. And this is again increasing, or it can drastically increase our cravings. So if you, for example, your breakfast looks something like, you have your coffee, you got your toast with jam or cereals, especially if they're sweet cereals. This gives you really quick energy, right? And after that, this is really when your blood sugar spikes, right? So it goes up and then it crashes. So it basically goes down. So this is what I mentioned. It kind of goes on a little roller coaster or a big roller coaster, right? And then you have strong sugar craving. Your immediate thought might be, I have such a sweet tooth. I just always give in into those sweets, right? I just can't resist. But your body might be simply asking for energy balance and just better fuel. And again, in a minute, I will be basically giving all the great advice on what's the best way to eat to avoid these physical cravings. And then the emotional cravings, right? And I think actually all of us experienced both types of cravings. I'll be very surprised if not everyone would relate either to physical cravings or emotional cravings. So, this is when food becomes the solution to our emotions, okay? So food can be more than fuel. It can become our comfort, it can become our reward, our entertainment, or a way to switch off. So, for example, you had a long day at work, and your kind of automatic behavior for this is, oh, I deserve this. I'm back home, and my reward is I'm going to have that chocolate bar, right? Even without being hungry. This is simply automatic behavior. And again, I'll talk about the automatic behavior a little bit more in a minute. And then, of course, stress, right? So, stress eating is a big one. A lot of us are experiencing that. Some of us actually can be the other way, but mostly we actually eating more. We go into fight or flight state, and well, that kind of state are also chronic stress, right? So this is when it's constant. We constantly in the stress, and again, we trying to resolve that with eating. And also stuff like, automatically having something sweet while watching TV, right? That was a big one for me as well. It was just kind of automatic behavior. Okay, let's put TV on, let's watch some kind of show, film, or whatever, and let's have some popcorn and then, crisps or whatever it is really. It's just kind of like automatic. So you associate certain activities with having those snacks and you crave them, okay? Because it's really became automatic behavior. And food can genuinely give temporary relief. The problem is when it becomes your only way of meeting that need and making basically your emotions better. So, where in your life are you using food to change how you feel? I would love to know. Drop that in the comments. Do you relate to emotional cravings? And when in your life are you using food to change how you feel? And important to discuss is why cravings can feel much stronger in midlife. Midlife can change the environment in which cravings happen because of our hormonal changes. Our estrogen and progesterone are fluctuating and eventually decline. Because of this, our sleep may become more disrupted, our stress and cortisol can become much more noticeable, energy can feel less predictable, and many women are carrying a much bigger mental and emotional load as well, with midlife, with dealing with much more stressful jobs, aging parents, teenage children, and so on, right? Old coping patterns can still be running quietly in the background. Your system might be much more sensitive now. So not weaker, but your body has changed. So the way you support it might need to change too, right? So if you thinking, my cravings are much stronger these days, it might as well be because of your hormonal changes as well. And estrogen is a big one because estrogen is regulating our metabolism. So when estrogen starts fluctuating, starts declining eventually, that is really when we notice a lot of changes in our metabolism, lots more cravings, as well as also weight gain, especially around our belly area. So again, we just need to think about cravings as information and what we can learn from what our body and mind are actually telling us, because they're telling us what we need. We need to understand this information and try to decode this information. So, how can we reduce the physical trigger, the physical cravings? We need to support our body before it's asking for more. So before the cravings actually happen. So what's really important, and this might not surprise you, is to start actually your day with high protein breakfast, high protein meal, right? Well, whenever you're having your first meal. And that is what that means. It's at least 30 grams of protein. Okay. Make sure you got enough fiber. Overall fiber should be at least 25 to 35 grams of protein a day. That is a day, right? As well as healthy fats, right? Don't be afraid of healthy fats because they keep us satisfied. So they really makes us feel satisfied and crave less. In terms of the protein, it's very important to eat high quality protein, and 50 grams, as I said, is the least. So things like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, salmon, chicken, of course, those meats, right? Whole foods are very important to start your day with that kind of breakfast rather than what I mentioned, the sugary cereals. Rice cakes are very popular, but actually very, very low in protein. Even if you add a bit of peanut butter, if you look at actually how much protein that contains, it's not great. I mean, omelets, eggs are great. It depends, of course, what you like, what you eat. It's personalized to everyone, but that is crucial to not just have, of course, every meal high protein, but especially that first meal of the day, because that will prevent the cravings during the day, okay? Because how you start your day is just so important. Um, What's also important is to avoid constant grazing and kind of automatic snacking, because more meals you have, more you graze, more actually your blood sugar level again will spike, and again it will go up and down on already mentioned roller coaster, and that is really not helping us. So 3 substantial meals should be really enough for us. Of course, sometimes we do need that snack. It really depends what we're doing, how organized we are with our meals. But if you have 3 substantial meals a day, that should be enough, and it's going to keep our blood sugar levels stable. This is what's really important, to keep our blood sugar levels stable, because that's how we avoid these cravings, physical cravings. And of course, it's important to prioritize sleep, decrease our stress levels, and support our recovery process when we working out. And also use fasting only when it supports your body and does not leave you depleted, triggering stronger cravings. So be careful with fasting, okay? It's very good for you, but only if that's done in the right way. So the aim is not any rigid diet here. It is really to reduce the biological drive behind cravings. So we need to make sure that we're supporting our body properly with our diet, balanced, healthy diet. So these are basically the strategies for how we support our body when we have those physical cravings, which I'm sure every one of us experienced and is experiencing, right? If we don't feed ourselves properly. And then, of course, we got those emotional cravings, right? And these might be a little bit more difficult to overcome and to actually find strategies for which are working for you. So that's why I'm going to actually give you 2 different strategies, because everyone is a bit different and something works better for somebody else. So that's why I'm giving you my 2 best strategies here. So the first one is the 3F framework. By the way, this is not my strategy. I have taken this from a doctor, which I just forgot the name of. But basically, this strategy is 3F framework, which is feel, feed, and find. Okay. So first of all, you need to feel. So what am I actually feeling here? Okay. So are you tired? Are you stressed? Or are you bored, lonely, overwhelmed? Are you frustrated? So it's very important to kind of decode. It's like, okay, so what's this feeling? I have fueled myself properly. So that's the first step, right? So we know this is not a physical craving, okay, because you fed yourself properly, you had those balanced meals. So now really is asking yourself, what am I actually feeling? But even if you're not sure what type craving it is, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling? Then the second step is feed. So how am I expecting food to meet this need? So would it provide you with comfort? Would it provide you with relief or reward? Kind of a moment that is, finally for you moment. Again, so it's just to decode, are you trying to do with the food? So this is an emotional feeling, right? You're feeling lonely, okay? So is it going to provide you comfort, right? Is that what you're after? It's just to understand what you actually after. And then we need to find, so that's the third F, right? What else could meet this need? So could this need be met by rest, by self-care, right? Having a nice bath with nice salty lavender water, right? Would this need be met by a walk, by a connection, going out with your friends, by simply going out and getting some fresh air, by pausing and having some time for yourself, some meditation, or just listening to music, or, whatever we feel like? Or do I just need early at night? Do I need to get good sleep, right? So again, it's working out, and this might take a minute for us to work out what we can actually replace this with, right? So instead of having food, instead of having that chocolate bar, those crisps, so well, whatever it can be, right? It can be anything really. What can I replace this with? What kind of activity that will meet those emotional needs I have? Okay. And you can still choose the food, right? The difference is that you are choosing consciously rather than automatically. Because what's happening here, we're breaking the automatic behavior. And eventually, the aim is, of course, to replace that food. And maybe not 100%, right? If we replace it in 80% of the instances that we want to reach for that food when we got some emotional need, right? That will make a massive difference for us. Okay, so this is the first strategy. And then another one is really when we want to look at our subconscious behavior, because everything is starting with our thought. Then after our thought, we got feeling. And after our feeling, of course, action is following. And then we got our result, right? So the result in this case would be we reach out for that chocolate bar, for those crisps, or whatever the snack you're having is. The example would be like you had a long day, right? So you feeling tired, overwhelmed, and then you eat chocolate, right? So that is basically the action. And then the result is you kind of feel immediate relief, but which of course doesn't last long. And your brain is learning that chocolate helps me to cope. And you repeat this often enough, this becomes automatic. So what we need to again break is this automatic behavior. And the second exercise I'm going to go through is the 5-step pause, what I call kind of 5-step pause. And the first step in this is to observe. So basically, you can set a timer up for 2 minutes. You sit down and you observe, you notice your thoughts. And they might be really, really fast, right? If you haven't done this before, they might be kind of like cars passing on a motorway, just really, really fast, right? Then you just done this. That's all what you need to do. The main aim of this first step is just to start noticing your thoughts. Then the second step really is to label them, okay? So now again, you can set a timer, let's say for 2 minutes. About 2 minutes is perfect. And then you label your thoughts. So now you're not just noticing them, but you actually labeling them. So for example, that's a food thought, that's a stress thought, that's a job thought, or whatever it is, right? And then you breathe. 5 slow breath. And then basically when you get, the whole point of this exercise is to make sure that we have a gap between our thought, feeling, and action, right? So we have a choice between that feeling. So when you have that thought, feeling, right, and then you reach out for the chocolate bar, we create a gap there. So by slowing down and becoming aware of our thoughts, suddenly we have a choice, right? Because we notice that thought, oh, I'm going to reach out after this chocolate bar because I'm just feeling a bit stressed out, right? And suddenly we have that choice. And what we do when we notice that and we have that choice, we breathe, right? And then we let it pass. We wait at least for 5 minutes. And the chances are that you actually don't want that chocolate bar anymore after 5 minutes waiting. And if you still really, really want to have it, okay. But if you keep doing this and repeating this again, you keep putting that gap between your actions and between your feelings and actions, right? So again, we have our thoughts, feelings, and then of course you reach out for that chocolate bar, right? And if you keep repeating this and make this exercise kind of a regular thing, we are reprogramming our subconscious mind. We are putting that gap in there and we got that choice. And eventually we opt differently. So the win here really is a choice. Okay. And this is exactly what I have done. So with my emotional cravings, I have reprogrammed my subconscious behavior. And I used this exercise, and it worked really, really well for me. And the cravings didn't really disappear overnight, but they gradually lost their control over me. And I'm not saying I never have any cravings anymore. Of course I do, but I took charge of them, right? I can control them much better now. And before they would completely ruin all my efforts. Now they don't, because I know when I have physical cravings, when I have emotional cravings, and what to do, how to prevent them. So it made a massive, massive difference for me, and it helped me to shift around 20 pounds and finally get to healthy body weight. Okay. So, just to summarize everything, cravings is information. It's not proof that you are lacking willpower. And we need to identify whether the cravings is physical, emotional, or actually both, right? And most of us are experiencing both types of cravings. We need to support, first of all, our body with the right, healthy, balanced diet, because that's foundation for us. And then we need to support ourselves in terms of the emotional cravings as well. As I went through those two exercises, the feel, feed, find, and the pause to create choice. That is how we reprogram our subconscious mind and how we create different choice. We replace that food with something else, something what actually works for us, different kind of activity. If you haven't grabbed my free step-by-step body reclamation roadmap for women 35 plus, you can find the link in the video description.